I think we're ripe, very ripe for smart metering. I am currently on a deliberate plan to convert the entire Abuja into a smart distribution network. I don't use the word sports for, I'm trying to look for a good word, but if you've never had power and eventually you're told you'll be given reliable power and you just need to pay 209, you would never argue. But you've been enjoying service and all of a sudden your tariff is increased. So it's the tariff hike that's really the problem. So it's not comparing service to amount, because if you're comparing service to the value you're paying for it, I think a band-aid tariff is very fair.
Welcome back to Connecting the Dots. Today, we're talking about something we all feel every single day: electricity. Not the engineering, not the policy jargon, just the reality of paying for power in a market that doesn't really trust people who are selling it. With me in studio is someone that I trust and have known for a really long time to give us the inside story as an engineer with over 15 years of experience of working in the power sector. He's now responsible for turning around one of the most criticized discos in the country, Abuja Disco, or as most of you would call it, AEDC. And my very good friend, the MD of Abuja Disco, Chijioke Okwuokenye. Chijioke, how are you?
I'm great. Nice to be here, Emeka.
So, Chijioke, you've been in the sector probably longer than most. I think you have a lot of experience from the old NEPA regime, and then to moving to a disco, and then also going to the renewable side, and you're now back to the distribution company. There's been a lot of changes in the sector in that time period. What was your favorite part of that journey, if you were to?
I think my favorite part of the journey would be there are two, but the first would be the transition from PHCN, a wholly owned government enterprise, to the private sector.
Was PHCN as bad as everyone says it was? Because when people describe PHCN, it seems like it was more like a war zone as opposed to privatization. That's like this brand new.
It was a sinking ship.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was a sinking
But
ship.
there's people who tell us that Echo, for example, this is what people tell me, and I saw the numbers when I was in the Ministry of Power, was remitting 100% right at privatization. But afterwards, it's now slipped to not 100%.
The volume of subsidy that was being done then,
interesting.
If you put that into perspective, vis-a-vis what they were remitting and what is being remitted today, even if you put it in dollar terms, it's not comparable. The question you also ask yourself: what volume of energy were we doing across the grid as at that time? So it's not comparable, I must tell you. Yes, there were a few places, and it's continued till now. The two best discos in the country is still the Eko and Ikeja, the Lagos axis.
Is that because of the density, or is it because of the network? What is it?
It's because of the density, the percentage volume of maximum demand customers in this. That region holds the highest number of manufacturers and producers in Nigeria, from the Agbara region to the Lekki side to all that to Ota. All these are high consuming. And if you have, as a disco, sometimes one of the ways we measure our improvement is what percentage of your energy is going to your maximum demand customers.
Okay, interesting.
Yes. The higher that percentage, the higher your ability to recover, to collect.
Because you reduce the amount of, permit me to say this, people you chase for revenue, right?
Exactly.
Because if it's in bulk, it's easier to chase 1%
exactly.
50.
Exactly. And if one of such customers steals energy, the impact is big. But if you're able to recover 100%, and the good thing is that there are technologies to manage these customers. You can meter them at the substation, and you put in smart meters. Let's say you have 10 customers consuming 30% of your energy. You can buy 10 smart meters, monitor them real time, put a team on them, and you're collecting over 40% of your revenue from 10 big customers. And honestly, it's a big strength. The more such, we call them anchor customers, even in renewable energy space, interconnected mini grids. You try to look for an anchor customer
in order to make sure that the money comes in the way. Yeah.
So that's one of the big benefits of those operating in Lagos as against. So like we in Abuja, we do have the capital that has that kind of flavor, even though not as big as that. But unfortunately, we have states like Kaduna, like Kogi, Niger, and Nasarawa, and the drag of those states on your revenue, on your performance is quite enormous and shows. But I think there is an opportunity to fix all that. And
definitely. Sorry, I interrupted you. You were saying two things were your favorite parts. Seeing the transition from PHCN to the
the opportunity to have done the due diligence for the transition, because I joined Engr Electrics, which was one of the companies, the major company that took over Port Harcourt Disco. I was the lead of the local, so it was a mix of the foreign technical partners and the local technical partner. I had the opportunity to lead the local technical team that did all the knowledge transfer from the foreign technical partners. So I sat somewhere where I was able to soak it all in, the commercial, the technical. It was a very interesting period, very intense,
of course,
but very interesting. I think that was the most formative part of my career in the power sector.
That's number one. What's number two?
Number two was the jumping into the renewable energy space. We did very exciting jobs with Connexa.
That was with Connexa, right?
That was with Connexa.
Interesting.
And the good thing was I went into it during the COVID period. So there was really no much hand holding. It was a new space, and I just had to explore. And it was also very interesting. I think those have been the two most interesting parts.
Interesting. Picking up on the first point, and the knowledge I have here has been in the sector for the past 12 or so years. When I hear your name, Chijioke, what people tell me and what I remember is you were the first to bring smart meters to Nigeria as to a distribution company. Could you talk about that process?
Okay. So it was in Port Harcourt, Spark meters. They were trying to pilot their smart meters. First time rolling it out in the field.
Interesting.
And we did that. I drove the project. It was a big success. But then the communication part was not ready.
Okay. So
that was in 2014. Yeah, 2014. The communication part. So we struggled so much with the communication part. We were using GPRS connected to a data concentrator. No, we used PLC connect to a data concentrator, and then from the data concentrator, we used the GPRS to connect to the central control system, the AMI system. This wasn't even AMR, it was AMI. And we did that, but the biggest challenge that plagued that project was the communication. The PLC was also not good because of the network quality. that led to us doing fresh network for all those areas. We did it. But then the GPRS also, then it wasn't 4G, it was 2G.
2G, yes.
It was quite an issue.
That's really interesting. I've always heard about the project. As you know, I've got interest in steam and I've always wondered why didn't that take off as the level as it should have. But if you can't communicate, then the means that it now just becomes a box.
Comes about.
As opposed to
at the time we would have to go to the DCU manually, get the data from the DCU too. So it did not deliver the value it was expected to do. So we saw it demonstrated in other climes. It was successful, but we failed to remember that there was a communication bit that had to be successful. But the good thing today is that the telecommunication space has evolved at a very astronomical speed, and such technologies are becoming very possible.
Because the interesting thing is being able to monitor your usage as a customer is very important to build that trust. And once that's done, the distribution company can be able to operate without the fear of, oh, my meter is running too fast, or any of these things that we keep hearing. Your journey has also touched, well, your current journey is now leading, you say it's one of the top distribution companies in Nigeria, which I agree, because we were in Abuja and the supply over the last couple of years has drastically improved, given all of the things your team has been doing. Through that journey, what's been your most exciting part of the journey?
I think a lot of things have been exciting, but my current job obviously will be the most exciting I'm doing.
Because you were COO before, right?
Yes, our COO. So finally, you've seen all these things happen in the sector. You've had your ideas of how things should happen, how things should evolve, and all of a sudden you're given the opportunity to do it. And and you tell yourself you can't fail. And now I'm having the opportunity to implement everything I thought should have happened throughout my career in the sector. And there's nothing more exciting than that.
Interesting. What has been, this might get a little bit, what's the word? Spicy, but we'll go down this route. Back in 2013, 14, 15, when we privatized, there was a big issue with government paying their debt, like paying their bills. Is that still the case, or are there mechanisms now to collect from government? Because given that you're in Abuja, a nice percentage of your customers are government. Has that hole been fixed, or is it something you want to make appeal to government to pay the bills?
Government needs to get the mechanism right for government establishment to promptly and continuously pay its bills. That's a big issue. I wouldn't want to flog it, but it's a big issue. Mm-hmm. However, in my head, I actually know that there's going to be a way around it. Mm-hmm. So we are performing, or we are trying to perform and improve our numbers regardless of this debt issue, because eventually we have strategies in place that we're trying to implement that we know will solve this. So finally, I think there is a solution in sight for that. It's not yet been implemented, but we are engaging at various levels, and we know that it's going to happen. We've taken the military, for instance, and there is something being done around the military consumption nationwide. for us in Abuja, we're even going a step ahead in doing that. So we are going to treat military formations as a specific cluster and put instruments around it to ensure that whatever is consumed gets paid. If government is going to do subsidies, they should do direct subsidies. Either we are doing it against, because government agencies still serve us. We still have willing charges to pay for TCM. So there must be conversations around how those energy being consumed by government agencies get to be paid. The first challenge with that was because of the lack of credibility in meters, there were no meters installed and all that. So there were issues of credibility. So the debt itself was being contested. But I think we've gone away from that. Now we've put in meters. We're working with the Ministry of Power to make sure that the ministry going forward is able to real time see what every MDA is consuming.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. That's what we're doing with the Ministry of Power. So all the meters we're putting on the head-end system. We'll give them a view. They can real time see what consumption, they know what to expect at the end of every month as bills. So we're no longer arguing about what consumption is. So the question now is, how do you pay? So I think
there's ideas of a first line charge and all these things that potentially, but it sounds like,
and it also gives them the opportunity to plan and forecast what their budgets should be properly.
Precisely.
So there's a commitment from the government side to solve it. It's not yet solved, but I think we're getting there.
No, because I bring that up because I remember back in the day, all the meetings you have would be around how do you solve this problem, because it was weighing down a lot of the distribution companies, especially AEDC being at the center. Given all these things you've gone through as MD and all the structures you've set in place, people argue that band A is too high. To our audience, is band A too high?
So if you tell a customer who's on band B and C that you're going to move him to band A, so it's a mindset thing. He would immediately start crying that band A is too high. But if you meet a customer who's on band A and say, I'm going to move you to band B, he would beg you to leave him where he is. Mecca, where do you stay? Let's move you to band C. No, but seriously, there is no substitute to reliable quality supply. I know customers who have spent millions of naira just to put in place backup systems, solar and everything, just because they want reliable supply. And if you put such a customer on band, he has no complaint. I know interconnected mini grid, so I keep saying this. Why will an interconnected mini grid customer gladly pay 400 naira? And then a band A customer who's getting reliable service would not pay 209. I think the problem is the band A customers that are complaining have had, they've been, I don't use the word spoiled for, I'm trying to look for a good word, but if you've never had power and eventually you're told you'll be given reliable power and you just need to pay 209, you would never argue. But you've been enjoying service and all of a sudden your tariff is increased. So it's the tariff hike that's really the problem. So it's not comparing service to amounts, because if you're comparing service to the value you're paying for it, I think a band A tariff is very fair. It's very fair. And I think we use this opportunity to tell customers that let us focus more on our ability to manage our consumption. So what 100,000 naira would get you, 50,000 naira would also get you the same thing if you understand how to manage your consumption. So let the mindset become more in how do we collectively as a people be able to manage our consumption so that we even free enough electrons for productive use and industries who are willing to buy this power anyway.
So things around like energy efficiency and things of that
should
nature.
be the conversation.
Interesting. And it sounds tariff has always been a politically charged government conversation, but kudos to this government because it's now become a market conversation. No one is saying, if you increase my tariff, I can't win an election, I can't do this. It's now been in the hands of the people, which is the same thing as different sectors. No one uses bank charges to win elections. Why should they use tariffs to win elections as well? So have you noticed that switch, or well, is that switch something that's real? And if so, how do we arrive at here, given all your experience with pre-privatization and then the last 10 years to the last 2 years where it's kind of changed?
So would I come here and lie that it's become that liberalized? The answer is no. If it's that liberalized, I don't know why Band B customers are still paying 60 something naira. So there is still a political side to it. However, like you
But the number of Band B customers has drastically reduced compared to what it was 2 years ago. So that means that you're able to move people up quicker because your supply has increased, right?
Yes. So I'm agreeing. If you, and the idea is really, if you can demonstrate that you've improved service, then you should charge the right tariff. However, if you want to do it in a free market situation, Band B would not be paying 63 naira compared to 209. So there is still a political consideration to it. Because the assumption is for places where you're giving lower service, it means that the mindset or the thought is that such areas they are people who are not in highbrow areas. So you might make that oversimplification that people in Band D areas are rural poor people. You can oversimplify, and so government is subsidizing those rural poor people. The assumption should be that those in your Band A areas are highbrow areas and middle and upper class people, so they should be able to pay for their service. That is the oversimplification that has happened in creating this banding. There will be exceptions to that, but that is the oversimplification that has happened. So government still understands that it needs to support those low-earning people.
So it's almost like the setup of like government understands that power, yes, has a bit of a mix. It's not a social service, and it is a profitable business, but for things around grid extension, supplying the rural areas, there still needs to be government support to get that done. But for the commercial areas, it's purely a business conversation.
So we'll say it's a quasi-social service. You need power to stimulate economic growth. Yeah. So in places where you need to do that, you want to subsidize it and encourage productive use, and probably even encourage industries to move towards that area. And possibly that will stimulate economic growth because energy cost there is low. But the thing now becomes, because energy cost there is low, I'm not willing to push in more energy because I have high revenue yielding areas that I would want to serve completely first and get full revenue from them.
Speaking of that, I know that's a bit of a pivot, but Niger State has 3-4 of the hydros, right? You would think that industrial clusters would flock there and create zones where they could manufacture because the energy is quite cheap. Is security the reason why this hasn't happened, or is it infrastructure? I know it's a pivot, but
it's a market issue. It's not infrastructure. It's not even insecurity. The fact is that most of that energy is pledged to the national grid.
Okay, but can they expand? Isn't
So they can expand, but I think it's more of a chicken and the egg situation. They want the demand to be there for them to expand. However, they can make the energy available and attract the demand. And that's one of the things we are now trying to do with the state government. The 2020 Electricity Act has made many of these, but it's 2023, so we're just trying to implement. Has made many of these conversations possible. So we are talking with, for instance, the Kogi state government. Let us create industrial parks, bring everything that has to do with infrastructure into the park, power, everything, and then let the.
Are they receptive to this? Because
it's an ongoing conversation with Kogi state government. So the governor happens to be an ex-power guy.
Interesting.
Yeah, he had his career in PHCN.
Okay, interesting.
So he understands power, and he understands the power that power availability can give in stimulating economic growth in his state. So they have been pushing the conversation actually to collaborate. How do we collaborate to make sure that you bring in more power into our states? And this has led to some of these ideas being discussed. How do we create success zones that we can use in attracting more demand in terms of productive use, and use that as leverage to expand to the entire state? I think that conversation is starting to happen. The question with Niger State, I've always told them, because there's a huge predominance of low-earning rural areas. How do we bring in cheap power
for them?
So that now affects the tariff within the states. If my average cost of energy today is 120 naira, and I'm charging my cost reflective tariff close to 190. If the cost of energy goes to 70 naira, that's 50 naira away from the tariff. And that will be passed on to the end user tariff. So we are talking to them about how do we collaboratively engage the hydropower plants within your state and be able to agree an offtake of bulk, cheap hydropower and domicile it within the state, so that the benefit of that lesser cost of energy is passed on to your citizens. That's the conversation we are driving with Niger State.
Interesting. And I think that approach does a few things, because government is involved, because if we're talking through it from a quasi market point of view, government needs to play their part. And it's good to hear that government is actually actively wanting to get this done. There's so many things I would like to talk about, and I'm sure we're running out of time, but I probably have two more areas I want to pick on. First is the transition the sector has gone through is quite interesting, right? Because we were vertically integrated, right? The Gencos, TCN, the Discos were all owned by government. We then moved to the setup of privatizing the different arms, and some companies were uniquely placed to be able to be on the generation and on the distribution side, and kind of still creating that quasi vertical structure. That wasn't AEDC's approach at first, but today you're here, right? Because you've got Transcorp that owns a couple of the generation assets, now own AEDC. And Transcorp, from what we've heard and from what we've seen, has really done an interesting and a fantastic job to grow their power output on the generation side. And I'm sure that process has now gingered you at the AEDC end to also grow your capacity. Is that a fair assessment? And do you have that pressure to be able to grow the disco?
Yes.
I think that was a pretty easy one.
Yeah, it's no brainer. One of my mandates. So currently, my demand from the grid is 611 megawatts.
But isn't that up? Wasn't it lower before?
It's been increased consistently, depending on the available power on the grid. It's just been increased again this November, so I'm expecting.
Which is a testament from your performance, right?
Yes,
because they wouldn't give you more power if you're not paying for it.
So it's been increased down to about 642 megawatts, but the target for me and from the group is actually to be able to hit 800 megawatts.
800?
Yes. There's so much talk about being able to grow your market. It's a numbers game. The power business is a margin business. The more electrons you're able to push out and recover, the more profit you're going to make. So there is an incentive to want to give out power. And like I said, with the new arrangement where as long as you can improve your infrastructure, move your customers to band A, you can sell at a profitable tariff. So it incentivizes the disco to want to improve. And once you're able to improve for us means you're able to drop your losses.
Yeah.
You should be firing as much energy as possible. Yeah.
Interesting. When you say your numbers are increasing now for what the grid gives you, your losses are obviously have started to reduce. What are some mechanisms that you can share that you guys have implemented to reduce your ATC and C losses?
I think one of I'll break them into two. There's the infrastructure side and there is the people side. I think a whole lot on the people side, a whole lot around governance, performance management, KPI setting, driving those KPIs has brought in discipline, has brought in accountability, has brought in ownership, which before now did not exist. And it's starting to get people to live up to their responsibility. In the infrastructure side, we are driving a network visibility plan.
Okay.
Yeah, that helps us to track losses to the last mile. So
is that like a mini SCADA?
It will evolve into the SCADA, but currently it's just about metering your key nodes, your key points, and being able to do real-time energy flow analysis and loss determination. So you can actually see real-time on this feeder, what is the cumulative energy consumed by the DTs vis-a-vis the energy entering into the feeder. So you can easily segregate your losses. What's the technical loss on this feeder?
Okay.
What's the commercial loss? So loss segregation, it even gives you an idea of what to attack. Are you attacking technical loss or are you putting in place solutions to address your commercial losses, which are basically the two main losses we suffer because we run mostly a prepaid metering system. Apart from some agencies that don't pay, your collection losses are basically not there. So it's mainly a commercial and technical loss issue.
And just so we educate the audience, ATC and C is aggregated technical and commercial and collection losses.
Aggregates technical, commercial, and collection losses.
And what's the difference between commercial and collection?
So commercial losses are losses arising from energy you can't account for. So energy that are stolen. So when customers steal energy, when you wrongly bill a customer, when you underread meters, all that fall under your commercial. So you didn't bill that energy. And I tell my people, any energy that you don't bill, you will never recover. Or collection losses is you have billed it, but the customer does not pay, either because the customer feels that the bill is not accurate or the customer is unable to pay anyway. So that's collection loss. But the thing with collection loss is once you bill it, it's receivable, it's there. One day you can collect it. And that's why the regulator is fighting against estimated billing, because most discos will rather push their loss into the collection side of it. And so even when energy is stolen, they look for a customer that will account for it.
To push that through to them.
So that's why the regulator is pushing against.
Okay, makes sense. We were at a meeting over the weekend, and it was clear that smart meters is not the answer for our system, because there's still a gap, and this is just my assessment, correct me if I'm wrong, and then maybe give some further insights. Smart meters are great, but customers are here, and a meter, what a smart meter needs is over here. There's a gap in between what the disco wants and what the meters can do. And no one has tied that. No one has tied it from the smart metering angle to the disco side to say, discos, by the way, this is what this can do. And now let's work together to clean it up. That's kind of what I feel around smart meters. I just don't know if this market is ready. Even like you said, 10 years ago, there was a technology issue with communication. That's all fixed now. Our current client, Steam Echo, has 98% uptime in their 20 or so mini grid sites all over rural Nigeria. So that means on the grid side, we should be able to communicate quite easily. I feel that it's because the value prop that a disco wants for metering could be met by the smart metering technology, but they're not able to handshake. And that's why we haven't seen an explosion of smart meters.
No.
Okay.
I think we're ripe, very ripe for smart metering. I am currently on a deliberate plan to convert the entire Abuja into a smart distribution network.
Interesting. Tell me more. Or is it a secret?
It's not a secret. It's the fact that everything has to become smart. My meters, I'm using my disrep meters. I'm replacing dumb meters. I'm implementing AMI. I'm implementing network visibility. We've piloted it in Gwarimpa. It's working. We are able to identify where our losses are, and currently doing meter relocation. So we had meters in the field that were smart enabled, but were never operated as smart. And we want to now go back and start retrofitting them and make them smart for those that can be retrofitted. So I think the time is right. This is when we should. The Internet of Things is running everything today. AI is able to predict consumption, identify theft, and we want to be ready for that. There were a number of things that wasn't done right in the past, which we need to fix. The GIS enumeration, so that you're able to identify every customer and map them currently to their assets. That's where it starts from. So the thing is, we jumped into doing smart metering without doing the basics. Now we've gone, yes. So that's really why we couldn't. So you see a meter, you're not seeing the meter location because you haven't done a GIS enumeration to geolocate that meter, but you're seeing that the meter is not vending. And then I tell my team, go and get this meter. And they go around the entire Abuja, they cannot locate the meter.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. So
it's the base level infrastructure is not then certain places, and now you're creating that by the pilots you're going to run.
Yes, not just by the pilots. We are we're building the database from scratch and mapping the assets to the customers that now allow your network visibility project to succeed.
Okay.
So if if there's a transformer here, 10 customers are connected to this transformer, but I cannot accurately identify that the consumption of these 10 customers equal to the consumption coming out of this transformer. There's no basis to even start measuring losses.
Okay, interesting. So more or less, this gives you direct access, obviously, to know and then see your full network.
Yes. So the foundation of every successful disco is actually the GIS. It is the foundation. Everything else is going to build on it. And the problem was we never had that. So we were building on nothing. So just putting smart meters there does not do. I used to tell people, today we see customers, they will register a meter on this address. In 2 days' time, they have moved the meter to another address. And there's no way you would know, because you do not have a GIS map of your network and customers for you to geolocate everybody to an asset, to a location. So we've started from that foundation. We're doing a complete GIS animation of our entire network. And as that goes, we are layering the smart metering on it, the network visibility on it. And
so it sounds like you're geotagging your entire network.
My entire network.
Interesting. And also, just from the work that you've done with the STEAMACO team, there seems to be some visibility around the district meters being smart, right? So with that means that down the road, potentially, there could be areas where they could come in to work with AEDC.
Yeah. We are open to a lot of collaboration.
Okay.
STEAMACO is one of those we're talking to. They've done a pilot of their solution in our network. They are looking at taking a feeder and replicating it across the feeder. But what is important for us is that all the solutions must be able to integrate finally on one single platform. And once that can be established, we are collaborating with.
So that would be the GIS platform or the AMI platform. Would you have one AMI for the entire disco?
There will be an MDMS for the entire disco.
Oh, okay. Yes. Interesting.
So everything is going to, all head end, all AMI will plug into an MDMS, where you can now visualize your entire network on one single platform, end to end. You can click a feeder, it will tell you the losses on this feeder is 10%. When you click that feeder, it will show you these are sub feeders on this feeder. This one is 6%, this one is 12%. You click the one that is 12%, it will show you the transformers on it, and it will show you the losses on each of the transformer. And you can drill down and then understand where your losses are coming from. Because at the transformer level, the entire customers whose meters smart are streaming their real-time consumption versus the energy being measured. So you could actually, in a snapshot, see a transformer and say the losses on this transformer is 20%, but my baseline loss is 10%. Immediately you send someone down, there is a theft on this transformer.
The problem is, interesting. This conversation is so interesting. Maybe one more question on this around just, are people's performance tied to losses, loss reduction?
Yes, so that's the new performance framework that is driving AEDC, which is what I talked about, the people side, where performance management has become key, governance has become key. Now, with the network visibility, people's performance can be seen transparently. In fact, I tell people that Disco's data are deliberately made skewed, so you are unable to hold people for performance. This is one of the things I have concluded on. So,
but you're going to change that, right?
We already changed it.
Fantastic.
Data cleanup is one of the biggest challenging job you will do in any disco.
You can hire next year. We'll do it for you. I'm sure we can. I'm sure the BI team will work for you.
So once you're able to do that, performance measurement becomes very transparent and very possible. So people cannot hide behind the numbers.
Numbers.
So they see that they can be measured, and automatically they start doing the work. And I tell my colleagues, if you do the work, and the work that needs to be done is measurable, you will get the results. If you have 500 customers that you're covering, and you make it a point of duty that you visit every customer once a month and say, have you paid? Can I see your installation? They will pay.
Interesting. The last question, and I promise, because I know you have a meeting you guys to get to, is you went from grid, off grid / grid. Now I'm back to grid. There's a conversation around embedded generation as a way to increase the 600 and something megawatts you have. Are those conversations actively happening now to be able to now fuse and bring in more power, either through CNG, solar, and whatnot? Then maybe a second part to that question would be the REA program, DARES, looks to help discos improve generation in band B, C, and D. Is that something AEDC is actively working through?
So if you ask REA, they will tell you that they have the highest number of sites with AEDC, and I'm proud of that.
Really?
Yeah. Everybody wants to work with AEDC. So yes, we're doing a lot in terms of integration of renewable energy. We don't just have active conversations. We have conversations that we are at the point of implementation. I had told myself that by Q2 next year, I will be commissioning a number of interconnected mini grids and embedded generators. I hope that still happens. We're working very strongly with some of our developers to make sure we close out on that. The Transcorp Group also have the Transcorp Energy now that is looking strongly at deploying renewable energy. And we are working with them on that. So it's a big focus area for us. Like I told you, my target is 800 megawatts, not 611. And a lot of this is going to come in from renewables.
Interesting. And I think one aspect that's even more influential in the government push for 30% of your energy coming from renewable sources. So this aligns, and solar is becoming cheaper. So solar with batteries increases, obviously it's more expensive than the grid, but solar by itself is actually on par or cheaper than the grid.
So we're working with the World Bank. In fact, we had a meeting with them today on a solar auction program.
Fantastic. Yes. That was a conversation a few years ago. It's back.
Yeah. Okay. And we are the disco. We are disco doing it. We are looking at doing 20 megawatts of solar. And the World Bank has told me that in Liberia, cost of solar is as low as is it 4 or 5 cents? In Cambodia, they were able to achieve 2.8 cents.
Wow.
Yeah. That's the cheapest that's happened that they are aware of. But there are a lot of success stories around 3, 4, 5 cents. And today in Nigeria, most people come to me and talk about 8 cents. So I'm really looking at closing this out with the World Bank and bringing cheap solar power into our network.
Yes, and doing that would then reduce how much power you buy from the grid, because obviously it'll be cheaper than what the grid.
No, I don't want to reduce the power I buy from the grid. I want to blend and reduce my average cost of energy, which is a benefit I would gladly also pass on to the customers and help grow the demand in this region, hopefully help industrialize and drive economic growth.
Yes, and just to wrap it up, to the comment you just made, without power, we can't industrialize.
It's not possible.
Without industrialization, security challenges with security challenges, no investments. And it creates and obviously no investment now becomes we now keep slipping further and further down every metrics of a progressing nation. So it's really that vicious cycle that it sounds like you and your management team and your board are really trying to take a hold of. And Chijioke, do you have any final words for us?
So I was saying I'm proud to be a member of a group that is so focused on changing the Nigerian story, changing the African story, pulling people out of poverty, driving economic growth. I go home every night after a very stressful day, proud that I'm doing this, and we are committed to it. I see a future where we will be driving the industrialization story of Nigeria. Industries will be powered by power being generated and distributed by AEDC, and Nigeria will be better off for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chijioke. This has been a long but a very interesting conversation, and we hope to have you back next year at this time. Where do you hope AEDC will be besides 800 megawatts of?
We will start counting from January feeders that have gone 24 hours without interruption, 48 hours without interruption.
Really?
The countdown will start from January. So we are working towards that, even if it's one feeder. But we want to hit our hand on the chest and say we have areas in Abuja Disco that power has not blinked.
Interesting. So we'll have you back again next year at this time to give us a report card. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
This podcast is brought to you by Next Year Capital, committed to driving conversations that shape Africa's energy future. Please subscribe, share, and stay tuned. Until next time, I am Emeka Okpukpara Jr., and this has been Connecting the Dots.